we're going to reopen our committee of the whole meeting. Do I need a motion to, no? Okay. So we'll just pick right up where we left off. I believe we were on number 4, talking about the comments on our live stream Facebook meetings, so. So yeah, I mean, I think we kind of covered that, I guess. I mean, I don't know if we reached the conclusion on that, but I mean, we wanted to look into the disclaimer at the beginning of the video, if that would kind of get us off the hook for having to handle those comments, you know, legally, I guess, as far as archiving and that kind of thing. I mean, that's, I don't know.
And just for clarification, that it's looking into a disclaimer to state that the live stream is not a public forum, right? Is that my understanding? That, so therefore it doesn't meet those, we're hoping that it wouldn't make those requirements then of having for data request.
I thought I screenshot what I seen on a couple other cities. I mean, we're both in line, but I don't recall exact wording they used, but they both put a disclaimer before the live video. I can,
If you could just share those cities with me, that
I
would
will.
probably,
I'll
that
send
would
it
be
to you.
great.
Yep.
And then if we make YouTube our official public forum, could we do that and turn the comments off on the YouTube video? Since I think we talked about live streaming on both, if
So
that
we're-
makes sense.
We're
So-
not able to live stream to both unless we purchase
Use
an
another
additional
device.
equipment to do so. So currently, we pick one, right now it's on Facebook, but we do still upload the day, relatively usually the day after council to YouTube. Those are not live, but the video is on there.
So could we say on that that's our official public, so that way we're
By
covered.
resolution?
That way we're covered if someone comes after us, and that's, Facebook isn't official, the YouTube is the official. And if the comments are off on YouTube, nobody can claim that it was you know what I mean, if that makes sense.
I think that we could try to do that
Okay.
and perhaps maybe even create a policy for such that, I'm not sure if that would hold up in court, but I think that if that's the direction, I think that we could try to draft some language like that.
So I kind of see we need more information, more things we've done, so.
Yeah,
I think if we want to try to get
I
through
had
all
some
this
other
yet
thoughts
tonight,
and
we
stuff on
should-
it, but it doesn't really apply unless, if we can get away with just that, that would be the easiest solution, I think, would be to allow the comments and have that disclaimer, so. So, yeah, so we'll come back to that after we've got more information. If we want to move on to
And,
E5, go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, just in the meantime, should I continue to continue streaming it on Facebook, allowing comments until we discuss further?
Yes, I think so.
I'd say yes on that.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to E5, Chapter 144, Drug Paraphernalia Discussions. So this was another one that I had brought up, kind of in relation to that new smoke shop that's there too. I'm sure you saw that sign they've got in the window that they've got glass in there as well. So this drug paraphernalia ordinance was, actually was the first thing that, after I was appointed to council, that I voted against the majority on. And so it's never been something that I was a huge fan of. I've always felt that, you know, you can vote with your feet. If you don't like something that's going on at a certain business, you don't have to shop there, and that's always been my approach. I hate to limit what a business can do, and I'd rather have the market decide those things. So, you know, kind of in that same line of discussion that we had as far as the THC and the moratorium and, you know, and this new business that's open, I mean, I'd like to see us maybe repeal this chapter completely or make adjustments to it that allow for some of these things to be sold, especially given that we think and we're expecting that legalization of recreational marijuana to come down sometime fairly soon. So that's kind of an introduction to that, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about it and if you'd had a chance to look it over or.
As far as I know, it's illegal to sell that stuff in city limits.
So most of this chapter, Mayor and Council, comes directly from Minnesota statute, Chapter 152, that these items are prohibited if they are used in conjunction for a controlled substance. There's not, and perhaps the chief has some to add to that, but most of that, like, as I mentioned, is only violating city code if they're using it for controlled substance, which then would also be violating state law.
Yeah, there's nothing in this chapter that would not be covered under state statute. So the fact they sell a glass pipe, if they'll tell you that it's used for crack cocaine, it'd be illegal. If it has crack residue, it'd be illegal. If it's a clean glass pipe, it's not considered drug paraphernalia under state statute, wouldn't be considered under this ordinance either. So the fact they're selling a glass pipe, it has to be intended to be used for a controlled substance. Now, like even the marijuana, you get marijuana, CBD flower, which has no THC in it. So you can use all the contraptions you want to smoke the flower, which doesn't have THC, which is not a controlled substance. So therefore, you know what I'm saying, that nothing in this chapter is gonna be any better than what's in state statute.
Okay.
So we couldn't limit syringes and say no to syringes because it could be used with somebody uses it medically?
Correct, unless you tell me you're using a syringe for a controlled substance, then it would be illegal. But just the
'Cause there
fact they
were-
have them is
There
not.
were a few things I'd like to keep on there, but he's got a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I know when this was originally done, the intent was to try to keep, that I think it was you, Steve, you were kind of trying to keep that type of a business out of town, right? I mean, maybe we didn't actually accomplish that goal is kind of what it sounds like, really. So we're really just paraphrasing what the state already has. So, I mean, they're allowed to actually sell all of these things as long as you don't say, hey, we're gonna go.
I guarantee if you ask them what they're used for, they're not gonna tell you it's a controlled substance, therefore it would not be illegal.
Right.
So then there's nothing to do with this.
So, yeah, I guess yeah, so, I mean, I was always kind of under the impression that when we had done that, we had limited that, so. And that was the goal, I think, at the time, but it's not really accomplishing that goal then, so. Okay, well then, yeah, I mean, we can leave it in there if yeah, really nothing to discuss there then, so, okay. E6, this was another one that I had brought up, the PD Explorer, program. You know, I know that, I think I'd talked to Josie about it before, and maybe didn't have enough staff to do it, and I don't even know what that looks like or what it is, you know, so I guess that was kind of the question, and maybe Travis can kind of address this, but, you know, what do those programs look like? Are they, you know, what goes into it? You know, what kind of involvement does it take from our officers? Does it have positive results, that kind of thing? I mean, what are your thoughts about doing that? That was something that had been suggested to me by a resident when this summer, actually, so.
Oh, Mayor and Council, I think the Explorer program in general is a great program throughout the state, whoever agencies that have them. I'm not exactly sure the age group, there's an age group of, maybe it's 14 or 16 to 21 is the age group of people that it's targeted for. So it's for the younger people to explore the law enforcement profession and thing. There's a Minnesota Explorer Association, so that's the big thing. So that the entity is to get them in there and get an experience in law enforcement now. And I think that we've talked, every time I've talked to council, I said my biggest challenges now and forever are gonna be recruitment, right? So I mean, there's one piece of that puzzle that is big in that. Now the second piece of that puzzle is your community relations. You know, there's two things that I think are accomplish that goal. You know, one would be Explorer program, and, you know, the other would be like Citizens Academy, which would be for the adults, kind of the similar concept, but at a lower key. So as far as the Explorer program, you know, you have, as far as how other cities run it, monthly meeting, which is more of a training thing where they'll do traffic stops one day, they might do report writing one day, and it's all kind of geared towards that association's conference, and then they actually compete. So then you have like, there's 4 officer explorers that compete in these traffic stops, report writing, domestic assault calls and whatnot. So that's kind of what even though that's just one piece, but then throughout the year, they do all these little pieces of training. They're around, they do some ride-alongs with the officers and stuff like that. So that's kind of the overtone of what it is. It's a great, like I said, the recruitment side is good because I know that there's a Cambridge officer that went through that program in Cambridge, and now he's an ex-officer, so I think that's pretty cool. So it's a great program for that, as well as just a community outreach piece. So, you know, we have the staff level. I mean, there's also a cost involved in that, but, you know, the staff level, we're fully staffed, and we had one officer that was with us for a few years that was interested in pursuing that once we were full of our staff. But, I mean, that's anything else they can offer for you?
Do you have an estimate off the top of your head what a cost would be to start up and try to run a program like that?
If we're including, you know, because we gotta include the office, usually you're gonna have to have an officer come in for 3 hours a day for that once a month, right? So that's the officer overtime rate for 3 hours once a month to do because you have one Explorer coordinator, I think they call that person, you have to designate. So with that, and you're looking, you know, $6,000 to $7,000 a year would be your expense for that, plus the conference.
So for that program, they can't actually do any usable work, can they? Like, say, office work, would they be of any benefit to the city as far as to get that money back? Or is it just strictly recruitment value, basically?
Well,
and
I would
community
say
outreach?
community outreach is the value in it. They utilize them a little bit the same as you would as your reserves, you know, as far as the street dances, your Jubilee days and stuff like that, so more of that community
Sporting
resource
events.
person that a reserve would do. So that's what they utilize the Explorers for. You just gotta be careful on the ages of these Explorers and what they're doing. Usually they're paired up with like a reserve or another officer at those times. So that's the only output you get is volunteerism from those events.
Do you think there'd be enough local youth that would be interested, that it would be worth the investment?
There could be, you know, and the other option, so historically, 7, 8 years ago, there was a program combined with the other Cambridge and the county, and that has fallen apart. So there's there's a little bit of cost savings by doing that, but, you know, I'd say $1,000 cost savings, maybe a little less, but if we don't have enough, I mean, that's the other option to seek out and see if they want to do a combined one as well. I mean, I'd prefer to do it internally just because I hate to put a lot of emphasis and resources in somebody else's community. You know, we keep it local type thing.
Do you think it'd be more effective to try to talk to the county to have this more on a county level, to be able to, you know, serve the whole county instead of just on a city level?
Yeah, we could dump it off in the county and let them do it.
I don't mean dump it off on
But, I
the
mean-
county, but what I was saying is there is a larger group of youth, and they'd probably be more effective, be able to recruit, you know, 5 to 10 young
The
adults
minimum
that
you'd
may
want
be
would be
interested
4.
in it, instead of 2 or 3 maybe if we did it on the city level.
I mean, we'd have to see what we'd get for the city level, and if not, you know, expand and see if somebody else would do it. Like I said, the cost savings, it's $585 per person that goes to that conference. So in theory, if we had, say, two of them that went and 2 from the county, you know, we'd save $585 times 2, you know, so there's a little bit of cost savings with that. So it all depends what the interest is. I don't know what it would be. You're probably right. It may be tough on the first go-around if we started right away to get 4 or 5 committed from our community. You're probably accurate with that. So it might not be,
But if you reached out to bordering townships,
yeah,
you know, that would make the pool bigger and still keep it pretty local.
yeah. And we can do whatever you think would work the best.
What was the reason that it kind of fell apart before? Was it just a lack of people's interest in it? And
Change in leaderships from agencies.
okay,
I mean, yeah.
so there was interest in doing it. It just didn't really pan out.
Yeah, and then, yeah, your biggest recruitment or your biggest recruiters are your school resource officers.
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
I know that one of our officers was hired that came up through the program.
So with that conference, that's a requirement to have those individuals go to that conference before they work with us?
No, like I said, the conference is kind of what they're working for throughout the whole year. You know, they do the traffic stops on a day,
Okay.
once a month, they do once a month training. So that's kind of what they're, you know, if they do train how to do traffic stops, or they train how to do domestics, or they train how to do something else, it's for this competition at the conference type thing. There's a bunch of training at the conference, but it's a competition type thing. So that's, you know, obviously if you have a youth group, just to do it's one thing, but to have an end goal, you know, that's kind of how the whole Explorer program is based around that association's competition conference, if you want to call it that, as well as some of the training there.
So it would be a great detriment if we didn't do the conference at the end type thing? or-
Yeah, I would say it wouldn't be beneficial.
Okay.
It wouldn't work.
Okay.
Would the expense be much different if it was 6 or if it was 15 or 20?
Probably not, because if you'd only send 4. Right, you'd only send 4.
The top 4?
Yes.
Okay.
So your you wouldn't have much more, you'd have a little bit, because you'd have some uniform for every additional person, but outside of that, you wouldn't have as much expense over 4.
Well, my thought is if the city decides to fund this, then we should just reach out to the whole county. I mean, it doesn't make sense. We might as well get as big of a pool as we can get. But that was my idea about reaching out to the county to do it, only because they have the bigger pool.
Do it as
If
a
we're gonna
city,
do
but advertise it to, you don't have to live in the city. You just-
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
As long as we give preference to city residents.
Because otherwise we'd have, I mean, say if we had 30 people from Cambridge apply and only a couple from Isani, and then that community engagement's going to Cambridge, when really our whole plan is to try and get Isani people engaged
When
in
they
our
go- yeah,
community.
True.
When they go to the conference, they wanna, when they go there, they'll be there representing the city of Isani,
I get it.
not Isani County,
I think to do the,
be the city of Isani.
But the other goal is to hopefully recruit somebody local for the police department too, in the long term. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Or just to get, I mean, really ultimate. goal,
Other
in my
than to
opinion, is
help
get their
the,
interest
get more
involved in
people involved.
wanting to be a law enforcement officer.
Right,
Without
right.
having to go to school and then finding out, I don't like this.
I got a bigger question though, is if, does Travis feel that he can take care of this and do this?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
That's the biggest question.
Yeah,
I wanna do it,
I'm happy to see it was on the agenda, put on there by one of you. It was good. You know, like I said, there was 2 pieces of the puzzle, and this is one, and then the other one that I'd like to bring back at some point would be more of a citizens academy, which is similar, but it's for anybody in the community. So you put it out there and take 10, 12, 15 people in the community, and they show up on a Tuesday night, 6 times, once a month or once every other week. And each one of those is broken down with a different topic of training, just to get a little hands-on, understand law enforcement a little bit better, understand what we do. So a lot of communities do that, so I think that's another piece of the puzzle that would go right along with this, just on a different side. So that's more of a community outreach, just having more relations and people within the community understanding what we do and how we help them better. So that, a lot of communities do that, nobody does that up here yet, but I think that's something that I'd like to look at it coming into next year, into 2024.
I like that. What kind of costs would be involved in doing a program like that?
So that one you don't have as much, you still have the officer time, so you'd have, that'd be a lot less. I mean, you're talking 2,500 to maybe 3,000.
I would love to see, I'd love to see a program like that get started as soon as possible.
I would agree.
I think both programs are just as equally valuable.
As long as Travis thinks you can handle them, or it's.
Yeah, we'll be at full staff, and our 2 that are on FTO will be, I just looked at the dates, I want to say the end of April, and everything will be full, and we have amazing officers that have talent to give, so I do think it's definitely plausible. The Citizens Academy thing, you need to plan a little bit ahead of time, so people, you can't just do it next week type thing, you want to do it for the fall, put it out in the summer for the fall, or put it out, so they have months to think about it and plan for it. Sure. But yeah, I think they're both doable, just because, especially the Citizens Academy isn't as involved as the Explorer one.
Maybe we should, I like both ideas, but maybe we should start with this one first to just see what the interest is in locally, because those same kids are gonna be the same ones who would wanna do the other program. Or if he gets a lot of interest in it, then we right away start the other program, if we.
I mean, your Citizens Academy target audience would be any resident, not youth. So it'd be.
But the youth could do it.
Actually, we would you'd have something that you'd have to be over 18,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay,
Your Citizens Academy is for anybody in this room, that's our target from
okay,
18 to no no maximum age. I mean, it's for the adult residents, your normal person that has no interest in law enforcement, doesn't want to be a law enforcement officer, but would like to learn a little bit more, have some hands-on stuff, maybe do a mock traffic stop, and learn what we do type thing. So that's where that goal is. They're kind of different, but they're both teaching or sharing what we do with the community.
okay.
PR work.
Yeah, I think both are, I mean, if you're interested in doing it, I mean, I think both of them are really, would be great. I mean, that's not, I mean, how is that different, I guess, from the reserves? I mean, are we doing something there that's kind of similar, or, I mean, that's really a
No,
totally
so
different?
like the Citizens Academy would have no, we wouldn't get anything from them, right? That is 100% teaching and creating allies within our community, making better, safer communities, because now there's a connection with the law enforcement. So now when something happens in their community, they may be more apt to call, there's a strong benefit for that Citizens Academy, because the ideal candidate for a Citizens Academy person is somebody who has no interest, no knowledge, no nothing of law enforcement. That's the prime candidate. You want that person to come in so they can get some firsthand knowledge and understand, what it's about.
And the reserve program is more people that are wanting to volunteer to help out where needed.
Right, and we're actually using those reserves to actually use volunteer hours, yes.
And then the Explorer is more for getting the youth educated and hopefully getting them into maybe a career in law enforcement if they enjoy it. Okay.
I suggest that we bring this back to council and take a vote on it.
Yeah,
So
I
we
think
move
if-
back further
Yeah,
sooner than later.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah, I think it definitely.
I
would
agree.
be interested.
The Citizens Academy, that might be something you could put in the community ed thing to advertise for, city residents. I don't know if that would be feasible or not.
I can reach out to them when we get there and see if that's
Yeah.
plausible.
All right. Let's see.
yeah,
Yeah, it is, sorry.
move it closer.
Yeah,
She's looking at me too.
I'm sorry.
We should all have them right at the end, like, talking and knowing like this.
Well, see,
I like the
Travis has
string
got one
idea.
that you can clip on over there, and maybe that's the solution, really.
Yeah.
That is what I'm waiting for,
These
is
are
cost
bendable,
on,
aren't they? You
on
can-
lapel
what's-
microphones.
What's the holdup with that AV company? They're just not, I'm not very happy with them, to be honest. This
They're
has
so
been,
fantastic, they're that busy. That's what it comes down to.
to send a quote for something to deal with every day? Okay,
Having dealt with other AV companies, I think they're worth the wait.
okay, oof.
All right, let's move on to E7, advisory street signs. So this is another one I brought up, so I've got a bunch of them on here tonight, but, so one of the biggest complaints I had when we were out campaigning and doing that kind of thing was people are driving too fast on my street, and I know we don't have Jason here today, but, he said before, that advisory signs don't really work and that kind of thing, and I know we've talked about, I mean, you guys know this obviously to my left, but you guys to the right here who are new, we've talked about speed limit signs for forever, and we, could you go down to 25? Well, if you want to go down to 25, then you got to do a study, and it's got to be all done, and if they find out that you could do a higher speed, then you have to change it to the higher speed, so it's a state mandate that you have to do those things, so,
Unless
so,
it's a school zone.
Sure.
Then we can, seems like we have control over that, but.
but that's about it, yeah, right, I mean, it's, so, the thought had kind of occurred to me that, what if we just had a sign, maybe underneath all the population signs that we have in town, we can maybe put, drive like your kids live here, or, 25 miles per hour on city streets or something, and just a black and yellow sign. So it's clearly an advisory sign, but, maybe just doing something like that to at least make it known that, hey, we want you to be driving careful, and probably wouldn't be a lot of expense in trying that, but at least maybe would keep people, thinking about that type of thing.
Well, we do have, Travis, did we purchase those speed limit, or speed flashers?
No, we do have one in a few places throughout the community. Don't use it much in the winter, just because battery life is
Yep.
an issue,
But I thought we talked about getting
We
a
talked
couple
about
of them.
getting a couple more back when.
yeah, we have one.
I think we should look at more into that, because I'm gonna tell you right now, when they put it on South Passage, even though I wasn't speeding, I still slowed down as soon as that thing started showing speed.
Everybody does.
It's a attention
Just a
getter. and-
reminder too.
Huh?
It's a good reminder too.
It is,
Check
and
your speed.
I think that's probably better, that way he could put it out on this street for this week and then move it over here and put it over here for 2 weeks, or if he's got a complaint, like you say, your neighbors are going fast down your street, put it out there for 2 or 3 weeks. You don't wanna leave them there too long, because they become sign blind to it, and they don't pay attention to it. It's just like campaign signs. If you leave it in the same spot for 6 months, after about the first month, they forget about the sign, they don't see it anymore. If you move it, they're gonna say, hey, that sign moved. and it draws their attention. So I think, because I thought we talked about purchasing two more of them.
Yeah, we did. But
And
think
I don't
it
know
was just
whatever
kinda-
happened to it.
Well, it probably just got kind of forgotten about, but,
But I think
I like-
that's more of that's something better than putting a sign out, because you're gonna see that sign on this population sign, and within a couple of months, you're gonna forget it's even there.
actually,
Yeah, that's it.
but if you, I like the idea of like, drive like your kids live here. What would be wrong
Yeah,
with
right.
having that on?
No, I don't see anything wrong with that either.
You're not stating a miles per hour or anything, but
Yeah,
you're
right.
just saying.
I mean,
it's
some of
just
the,
a
some
nice-
of the city streets, you wouldn't want them going 25, yeah, I mean,
Right,
that's,
some of that's, it's just a nice friendly reminder of people entering our city, because most of the speeders that I see, they're just using Whiskey Road to head to St. Francis, or using 5 to head to Bradford Township. They're not actually living here. They're
yeah, I
just
think you're probably right about that, too,
They're
is the
just
people that live here probably
cutting
are
through
driving a little
town
slower.
to go wherever they're going.
I don't think we should look into both of those, what's gonna cost to do the signs.
Okay.
And do the speed, get those other speed signs. Because there is some permanent speed limit signs that you actually mount on the post and it stays there, but his are more mobile. And that's what I'd prefer to see.
Yeah, so we want to maybe look into options for a sign on each of the population signs as people are entering town, and then look into the cost for more of the, I don't know what you call them, the blinking speed limit signs that we have the one of already.
I think that we will have to, Mayor, if I may, I think that we will need to reach out to the county and maybe even MinDOT, because some of those population signs are within their right-of-way. They may need to give approval for that, but I think the one that we have on the south end of town, that's in our city right-of-way. So I think it'll depend, maybe where those are located, but I can look into that.
Okay.
And I have another little interesting tidbit that's kind of related to this, but not. So I know last time I brought up the GIS software. So if you go on GIS, you can look at every sign in the city limits. So if you have say you get a complaint from somebody that lives at a certain address, you can, my proposal is you can go in, and as a council member, you can see where the speed limit sign is in relation to their house. So, maybe we could say, hey, maybe we should put a speed limit sign at this spot because it's too far from this person's house. So that GIS software would give us ability to look at sign placements as well. So I think that's just a tidbit that's kind of related to the street sign thing.
All right. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and, can I get a motion to postpone the remaining items here until after the council meeting tonight is over?
Motion to postpone.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. So we're adjourned for now.